Well, it's going to be interesting in the coming days. We see how that pans out where the politics is getting too dirty, isn't it, in Cross River State? Well, now, to our major story of the day. The 2017 budget may have been signed into law, but there are several issues trailing the document. The issues of over 400 insertions in the document coming from the National Assembly end, and also the debate of whether or not the National Assembly really have such powers to alter the budget. The federal government has also said it wants to regularize the budgeting process and refer to the usual January calendar. Let's get more perspectives into this matter. Joining us tonight on the program is the minority leader of the House of Representatives, Honorable Leo Ogo. Many thanks for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
Are you satisfied with the 2017 budget? If you look at this, is the second budget of the Buhari administration. Would you say, based on what the acting president said, this budget is going to take Nigeria out of recession? Would you say that is the document that can achieve just that?
Well, for me, I think it depends on how the budget is managed. Budget, clearly, you know, is a proposal. And when the budget is approved, when the budget is properly implemented, it serves its purpose. But where there is no proper implementation of a budget, then the essence of the budget is totally defeated. So let's get to the implementation level, and there we can take a position. But we cannot just say, oh, this budget is a wonderful budget, it's going to take us out of recession. If it is not well implemented, then we're definitely going back to square A.
But for the document that you and your colleagues deliberated on, does it look like a document that is properly framed to do the work of getting Nigeria out of recession?
Definitely, yes, definitely. You know, like budget, you know, is tailored towards serving a specific purpose. It anchors clearly on the implementators to make sure that the budget is properly implemented. So if it is well funded, which is going to be one of the major issues, because if you clearly see this budget is going to be funded with a lot of borrowings, if it is well funded, then definitely you can find ourselves, or we can find ourselves out of the wood. But if it is not, then like I said, we'll be heading back to square A, if not for a worse situation.
Yeah, you concerned with the level of borrowing?
Sure, everybody, even Nigerians, are concerned. Because clearly within this period of 2 years, you know, we're having, if my statistics are correct, we are borrowing over 7 trillion naira, which is very dangerous. We may end up putting this country into a scenario or a situation where our great-grandchildren will start asking questions. So we need to really look at the borrowing level. But let's see how the implementation will come, because we depend solely on oil to fund our budget. We need to look clinically at how we can cope with this borrowing. How are we going to pay this money back? What are the modalities that will be put in place to address these issues? Those are going to be the main subject matter that, you know, we'll go into probably on the later date.
As it stands now, a concern is that the delay in the signing of the budget comes with some of the gray areas in that budget. For example, it is said as you and some of your colleagues inserted over 400 new projects coming from the National Assembly and into the budget. Why would that happen?
Well, first, let me state that budget has a financial period. The financial year in every budgeting process is 12 years. It is there under the provision of Section 318 of the Constitution that defines what a financial year is. And when you look at one of the clauses that is there in the budget, it says that it takes effect from the date that the budget was signed. You know, so the issue of the period is totally inconsequential. Now, there is a major lacuna which borders on the budget preparation. I think for us to address this issue effectively, we may have to go to the root of budget preparation. The executive need to understand that in preparing a budget, you must carry every Nigerian along. Who actually prepares the budget for this country? It is the civil servants that prepare the budget. And what actually is budget? These are the questions that they need to ask themselves. If a civil servant can probably provide a project and it comes in the budget, and you are saying the representatives that are close to the people cannot be privileged to have water, necessary facilities in their areas, then automatically you are indirectly depriving them of even fair representation, no matter how you look at it.
The question, Honorable Ogo, is
yes.
that I'm not sure a lot of people will argue or debate that the lawmakers have the right to bring in constituency project, because there is a space for that in the budget. There is a provision by law for constituency project. But in a situation where, for example, in the Ministry of Works, you find in a federal budget, you find community projects like BOO for local government, state projects in the national budget. Does it give you a lot of concern that there is a misplaced priority with what the lawmakers are doing?
It could be, but those are purely allegations. And let me tell you what happened. In the 2016 budget, there were projects that were introduced. All right? Oh, sorry, in the 2015 budget, there were projects that were introduced, or 2016, correct myself. Now, when these projects were introduced, when the executive was preparing the budget, they removed all those projects. Those projects were projects that some have actually been awarded. So you end up having abandoned projects. It would be very, very unwise for us as lawmakers not to reintroduce those projects back into the budget, because government have already started, spending money on those projects. So why will you start a project where you have actually started the funding of some of those projects, then you remove them totally out of the budget? It doesn't make any sense.
Because that's the accusation, or that's what some people are saying. Some of your colleagues are guilty of. For example, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Yeah. We understand that from the budget that was passed by the National Assembly, some level of funding was even cut from what the executive had presented to the National Assembly. And one we wonder, is it the executive that should be preparing the budget, or the National Assembly? Because the power of appropriation, yes, is in the National Assembly, but who prepares, who spends? Is it not the executive?
The executive spends, and this is where probably they need to understand what the law says. Let me go into the issue of the budget first, of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. We may debate this issue, and we'll now see the major problem in our federalism. But to give you a very short analysis, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is a very, very important road. And one road, I believe, is so important to the southwest, geopolitical zone. But I give you a clear example. There is what we call the East-West Road. And there are people who probably will not use the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway throughout their lifetime. If you ask them, as Nigerians, East-West Road and Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, which one is important? Definitely what they will tell you is the East-West Road. So when you heap all the funds necessary into one specific road, it becomes important. That is where the laws comes in, where the legislator comes in, because the Constitution is very clear. It says, no funds shall be withdrawn from the consolidated account or any public account except in the manner prescribed by the National Assembly. You are talking about fairness, equity. So there must be some fair distributions of all these resources for other roads in other geopolitical zones. But if you decide to say you want to concentrate on only one specific road and abandon the other places, then definitely you are bound to have complaints.
Are you not concerned that the National Assembly may be overreaching itself on some of these issues of the budget? I mean, the privilege, fine, but the provision of the Constitution recognizes the role of the National Assembly. But it does look like, from the way and manner things are going, it does look like the National Assembly twists the executive in budgeting process.
No. I believe that there is one major problem that we have not appreciated in this country. I think let's look at the clear principles of separations of power as stipulated under the provision of Section 4, 5, and 6. Now, Section 4 of the Constitution gives the legislature the power to make good laws for the good governance of the country. Section 5 says subject. Please underline that word, subject to the provisions of the Constitution. The executive powers of the nation is vested in one man, which is the president, who has the power to delegate, while the judiciary are saddled with the responsibility of interpreting our law. So when you place these three arms of government in hierarchy, then the next thing you will see that the executive comes last. Now, what is the budget?
Okay, sorry, we need to take a pause. Well, we'll take a moment. The minority leader is still with us. We'll be digging into all the issues of national unity, but we conclude on the issue of the budget. That's after now. Join us again.